Hey, good evening, Gavin. This is Mayor Tom O'Leary back after a couple of weeks absence. Um, Really, we're getting to a point in this year where what's going on at City Hall is uh, wrapping up projects from the point of view of construction type projects for 21, but a lot of our attention is shifting over towards getting the 22 budget developed in place, presented to council, and see what steps follow from there. Um, uh, our new auditor has spent a lot of time, as I think many people know, working on a part-time basis um, to help Auditor Baldinger, and he's done, I think, a really admirable job of getting revenue booked into our system and caught up. And so for a matter of quite a few weeks, we really weren't sure how revenue was coming in. We were hopeful that it was as projected. Looks like it's a little above projected. So I think that's important as we look at 22. That now that we've caught up on the revenue posting, that we're in a position that 22 from a funding, from a cost point of view, from a revenue point of view, looks to be in pretty good shape going into next year. It remains to be seen a little bit on the spending side. We're real close to locking in for another year of health insurance for our employees. And as compared to previous years, I think the estimated increase is something that doesn't. I stay up and lose sleep over things with the city, but I'm glad to say that it looks like the health insurance picture in the last year of a 3-year contract with all of our unions aren't going to make. They're not going to make for new problems in 22. So you'll see a lot. You won't see a lot, but if you're wondering what's going on up there, largely is getting our 22 budget in place and trying to finish up 21. So when you talk about tomorrow night, there's really not a lot on the agenda that's particularly interesting. I'd certainly encourage people to tune in to the council meeting, but as I looked over the agenda before we started tonight, there really isn't much of major consequence on the agenda for tomorrow. Do want to talk about one thing, and then we'll see if there are questions out there. We had a planning commission meeting today, and what it is probably what I describe as the second step or the first and a half step towards securing a project for senior housing in the community. So the details are kind of shaping up at this point, but company known as MVAH, Miller Valentine Affordable Housing, is approached the owner of the property at Hosford Road and Portland Way South about acquiring that ground to put up a senior living apartment, 55 and older apartment, not to be confused with assisted living, or frankly confused with people wanting to buy property in that 50 and over crowd. So this is was first brought to planning tonight. There was a discussion about change of zoning that was tabled, and the plan moving forward is as early as Thursday night to have a meeting where the Planning Commission will be recommending, I think, to City Council Committee, which meets next Tuesday, the change in the general commercial language that would allow us administratively, if you will, through the Planning Commission, public hearing, and then change the zoning to allow for a conditional use that would hit this kind of property. So it's time will tell. We'll get into more detail as it presents itself, but as somebody who really believes that one of the ways that we can add to the community in size, and also find opportunities for younger couples, younger individuals to become homeowners, is to free up some of the older housing stock where there are area residents, galleon residents that don't want all of the issues that come with home ownership and are looking for a place in their home, in their community, where they could have senior living. So I think as this goes in front of planning on Thursday and to committee and then on to a public hearing eventually over the next couple of weeks, I think people will get a better idea of the project, the quality of the product that they're going to be building, and clarify any questions about that folks might have about this not being a consistent use with the other residences and businesses in the area. So I feel like overall there was a good discussion. There were some of the neighbors were represented. Some of the neighborhood residents had questions asked and answered, and I had a pretty good feeling about how the other housing in the area, although not representing everyone, but got a good feeling about how this project will be received by the community. So it's about all that of consequence, and you'll see that unfold over the next couple of weeks. I won't go on too much more, but I would say that housing is one of the key components to maintaining the size of our community. And I think it's really something important when it comes to growing the community as far as new jobs, getting people to move back to or to the community for the first time, is having affordable housing, single family housing that has the time and talent and know-how to rehabilitate some of these properties. So I think overall it fits the idea of finding, creating, building, whatever the right verb is, housing for seniors so that they can have a profitable and reasonable way to transition outside of single family ownership. So anyway, we've been looking for partners in accomplishing this goal for a couple of years. So excited to see how the Miller Valentine partnership unfolds in town. And so that's what I've got on that, folks. Questions, Matt?
Yeah, first question I have tonight came from John.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I received an anonymous message that Powers Reservoir is leaking. If that's true, are residents on Croft, Crew, and Railroad Streets safe from flooding?
Yeah, it's really, I don't know what to say. I'll have a lot more to say through November. No, John, no, it's not leaking. There is a sizable project or projects that we're going to be have been looking at about ways to make some changes at Powers, but leaking, no, that's not fair to say. So I wouldn't worry about that, and we keep a close eye on that. There's at Ammons, we're going to be working through what I might describe as an initial difference of opinion. You know, when it comes to the state anymore, differences of opinion, it's like that two-headed coin. Heads, they win, and tails, we lose. But the extent of some repairs that we need to do on County Line Road at Ammons, it's not leaking, but there we're trying to make sure that we don't have any failure. Same with Powers. So as our plan is finalized, City of Gallion's plan is finalized and submitted to ODNR when it comes to Powers, and then also an update of our plan for the water plant that goes to OEPA. As those plans are developed and the specifics of whatever solution led that anonymous call to go out, we'll be as open and upfront as possible. It'll be interesting to see if, it doesn't matter where John lives, but if he lives over in that neighborhood, that's, it's kind of that's crap to do that. The notion that somebody letting you know anonymously cares more about your safety and health than those rotten city officials. So, yeah. I wouldn't believe anything that you get anonymously like that, John, but I tell you, the Powers isn't leaking, and we do keep relatively close eye on it.
Okay. Next question tonight came from Travis. He asked, why are the new apartments on Carter Drive allowed to be such a mess? Do they plan to continue to develop that?
Yes, the answer is no. I'm not in a wise guy way. I wish it had been maintained a little bit as they were putting together the plan for restarting the construction on buildings 3 and 4. We've called them and said, let's keep it mowed up. I don't know. I don't want to argue with you, Travis. It's such a mess, and I'm like over semantics. The plan is for them to start yet this fall, and I have no reason to believe they won't get that done. So they'll get the foundations in, and then I don't know how much they'll get constructed during the cold weather months, but the plan is to get it started this fall. And I think that the spot, we have really good relationship with the people who are doing that. So I don't want to be, too soft or too harsh in the criticism. The area that I think is unsightly is down by Arby's and kind of the entrance to Drug Mart, and no one would argue that that is something that they'd want to see in their backyard or in their neighborhood. So, touche, Travis, and it has to go into the fall either as an active construction site or cleaned up a little bit. On that, I think we'd agree.
Those are all the questions I have at this time.
Okay, that's gives us something to check in with the developer there, see where they're at, make sure things are moving ahead. I really want to make sure that they also get a start over on Winchester with the proposed single families over there in the old Wrenchville site. So we have an occasion to talk to them as well. So anyways, gee, I don't know what else to say. Our frustration with getting projects that we had committed to, that we actually have orders on. You're looking at one of the angry people about the supply chain, I guess. So we're at when in projects like the dog park, I think we're gonna run into it a little bit at Pico, but I don't have. And then trying to get the right materials to get East Park substantially completed or all projects that we're kind of tapping our foot or wishing that we could get under construction before the weather changes on us too much. So I'll buy a little bit more time. About as, and second I say that it'll change, but about as late a leaf drop as I can remember. Between all those doggone acorns, anybody with oak trees or oak trees in the neighbor's yard or whatever know what I'm talking about as far as acorns this year. But it's we're getting late into the fall, and heck, the leaves are barely changing colors yet to drop. So I suppose that's it's a good thing. Our worry, at the extent it's a worry, is that we get enough time to get the leaves up before we take a turn into the winter season. But our folks in the service department have been working on both at the same time, and so I have pretty high degree of confidence that we know Christmas, that's coming too, but the winter's coming, and I've got a pretty high degree of confidence that when the weather turns, that we'll be ready to do the ice and snow thing again this winter. So, anything else?
Travis just had a follow-up question.
Yeah, sure.
Over at the apartments, is it the same developer?
It's south of town.
I'm sorry, for Carter Crossing.
Oh yeah, yes, and yes, it's the same developer. They were snagged by availability of and cost of building materials, and the Port Authority worked with the city to try to provide some assistance so they could get that going. And so your question prompts us to give those guys a call. But yeah, it's the same developer. It's actually the same people who developed originally the Drug Mart Plaza. So they made some substantial investments in Galleon. I think overall they made the community better, and what they're going to build in buildings 3 and 4 is a lot like 1 and 2. So, I think those are real positive additions to the community, the housing and stuff like that. So, I can't wait. Although we've been waiting, tapping our foot for about a year, hoping that they would be not only under construction but be completed at this point. But stuff happens, and we're reacting to that, getting ready for, I think, construction to start this fall. Okay.
Yep. Nothing further.
All right. Short council meeting tomorrow. Doesn't mean you don't want to tune in, and I'm torn on this very last issue. Then I'll sign off and run and hide. I'm going to do something this year that I've never done before, and that's participate in an election where there's some write-in candidates. So without getting into the various candidates, I think those people who plan to vote, I'm guessing maybe 20% of registered voters. So, it probably bears, use of time, take some time, try to understand that, and you get to the ballot, or to the poll week from tomorrow. If you've studied the candidates and you're thinking about write-in, make sure you do it right so it's worth everybody's time and effort. And with that, I'll duck out before somebody asks me a question. It's not an endorsement. It's just recognizing something that the large percentage, I'd guess, of people who will vote next Tuesday, again, probably 20% of the registered voters, maybe have never done it as well. So I'm a little nervous. If you're a little nervous about it, then we got something in common, and we'll talk Monday night. And I think tomorrow night is all that you have in terms of your civic responsibility to city government. I think that's no committee meetings, but council meeting tomorrow. So be safe, stay dry. Good night.